Did you know that most people, by the time they reach 55, have given up on their biggest dreams? They believe their best years are behind them, that opportunities have passed them by, and that all that's left is to wait for time to run out. But let me tell you something that might sound absurd: your best years could be starting right now. It doesn't matter how many failures, debts, or closed doors you've encountered. If you understand what I'm about to share, your life could change so drastically that those around you won't believe their eyes. At 55, and especially after that, most people ask me in secret, what if it's too late? What if I ruin what little I have? What if I don't have the energy to start over? I understand. But here's the game changer: traction is a consequence, vibration is the cause. Vibration is the primary law, traction is the secondary law. When I understood this, my life turned upside down, and yours can too. If you're 55, 60, 70, or older, it's not your age that's holding you back, it's the frequency you've been living at. Your brain works like a switching station. When you activate certain ideas, you activate certain groups of brain cells. This alters the vibration you operate on, and by altering your vibration, you alter what you begin to attract. Did you feel a knot in your stomach just thinking about money? That feeling is your awareness of your current vibration. Change your thoughts, and the feeling changes. Change the feeling, and your reality responds. Let me open the black box. What truly drives your results after 55 is your paradigm, a program installed in your subconscious that controls your behavior, habits, income, health, and relationships. And the subconscious, unlike the conscious mind, doesn't reject anything. It accepts everything you imprint with emotion, including the stories of, it's too late, retirement is just for survival, money is hard. Therefore, the first step isn't to work harder, it's to reprogram. Now stop and look at your own life. How many times have you stopped trying because you didn't know how? The truth is, you don't need to know how at the beginning. You need to tune into what you want, the frequency of the result, and sustain that image until the path appears. I've been teaching this for decades with a phrase you may have heard me repeat: align your frequency with the reality you desire, and it becomes inevitable. When I sustained that image, I saw project after project materialize. Want a concrete example from my own life? One that usually elicits a surprised smile. I was sitting in my backyard, in my 70s, and mentally built a studio where I could operate multiple cameras and broadcast to the world, with my team spread across different states. I maintained the image, aligned my actions with the vibration, and today I record in a soundproof studio, with my engineer in Phoenix and the creative director in Dallas watching in real time. I saw that place before it existed. Then I found the right people, the right capital, the right decisions. Attraction? Yes. But because the vibration came first. And if you think, but I don't have the energy I used to, allow me a reality check. When I aligned my vibration, I worked with more vigor than many 22-year-olds, and I was nearing 82. Energy isn't age, it's frequency. Now let's bring this into your daily life, simple, direct, and applicable. First, an honest vibration check-in. Today, not tomorrow, do 3 check-ins throughout the day, morning, afternoon, evening, and ask yourself, how do I feel when I think about money, health, and time? Name it in one word. Remember, feeling is the awareness of vibration. If the feeling is constricted, fear, guilt, anxiety, you're operating on a frequency that naturally selects bills, delays, and missed opportunities. The act of noticing already shifts the frequency. Second, a clear image and a true desire. Take a card and write a C goal, not what's possible, but what you truly want at 55 and beyond. To pay off debts and create a 12-month reserve, to start a light business that allows you to work 20 hours a week, to build a health that allows you to play with your grandchildren without pain. Describe it as if it were already done and read it aloud daily, with emotion. Why? Because what you imprint on your subconscious with emotion becomes desire, and desire changes your vibrational state. The new state puts your body into action, action generates attraction, attraction changes the outcome. That's how the chain moves. Third, exchange the how for what frequency does this require? Ask yourself, what kind of person do I need to be, in habits, language, environment, to match this reality? At 55 and beyond, this might mean a 20-minute morning ritual to study basic finance, 30-minute walk to shift your state, and a weekly conversation with someone who already lives what you want. You don't chase money, you tune into the level of consciousness that manages it well. You become what you think about. Choose your thoughts wisely. Fourth, align micro-actions with the new vibration. Examples that work for most. 1. Renegotiate a debt in a 15-minute call today, not to save money, but to prove to yourself that you can shift reality when you change your attitude. 2. Sell 3 unused items at home and deposit the amount into an account named Freedom, not for the amount, but for the mental pattern of abundance in motion. 3. Schedule a conversation with someone 10 years ahead of you in what you want. Proximity adjusts your social frequency. Notice how these actions change your feeling within the same week. It's vibration in practice. Fifth, protect your mind from noise. The conscious mind can accept or reject any idea. The news, a pessimistic conversation with family, headlines about scarcity, you're not obligated to accept any of it. Reject what doesn't serve you, and nurture what does. 10 minutes of daily reading on conscious prosperity, visualizing your card, and recording 3 pieces of progress. You're training your radar to notice opportunities that have always been there. Sixth, use your higher faculties, imagination to project, will to sustain, intuition to perceive. At 55 and beyond, intuition becomes even sharper because you have a lifetime of experience. The right question in the right silence usually brings the next right action. Trust that, that's how you upgrade stations. But what about research? What I've been teaching for decades aligns with what modern psychology points to. Positive emotions expand the repertoire of action and improve decision-making. Consistent focus reconfigures habits. Environment and narrative influence financial behavior. In simple terms, when you change your internal state, you change your choices, and your choices change your evidence, which reinforces the new state. It's a virtuous cycle. If a pattern break helps, let's do it now. Close your eyes for 5 seconds and see yourself, at 55 and beyond, with the Freedom card full, breathing easily, laughing with relief, opening your statement and murmuring, "This is it." Feel that relief in your body. That feeling is the frequency. That's where you act from. Practical challenge, 55 in 7. For the next 7 days, don't talk about lack, not even jokingly. Every time you think about a bill, retirement, or fear, interrupt it with 3 steps. 1. A 60-second deep breath. 2. Rereading your goal aloud. 3. A 5 to 15-minute micro-action related to your goal. A call, study, announcement, walk. Record 2 lines per day. How I felt before, after. In the end, you won't have luck, you'll have evidence that those who change their vibration change the game. Some like famous examples. I remember an actor who wrote himself a check for $10 million years before receiving it, carried it in his wallet, and lived as if the opportunity already existed. That's applied vibration, a clear image, emotion, persistence, and aligned action, exactly what I'm asking you to do at 55 and beyond. If you've made it this far, you know enough to start today. Hold the image, adjust the frequency, align the action. The rest, people, resources, timing, responds to your vibration. It always has. After 55, I see many people making the same mistake, living with small goals. They are content to want just a little more security, a slightly better car, a short trip, promotion that just keeps everything the same. But let me tell you something that might hurt, small goals don't awaken the power within you. They are not capable of bringing out your best. At most, they keep you in the same place, living in mild comfort, but without growth. There's a difference between wanting something and setting a true goal. Wanting a new car, for example, isn't a goal. If you've bought cars before, you already know the way, you already know how to do it. This won't challenge you, it won't expand your mind, or your consciousness. The true goal is something you don't know how to achieve. It's when you look in the mirror at 55 and decide, I'm going to do something big, even if I have no idea how. That's where the magic begins. I like to call this a C goal, the creative goal. It's different from an A goal, which is something you already know how to achieve, and a B goal, which is something you think you can work hard to achieve. The C goal is different. You have no idea how you're going to get there, but you feel, deep down, that you will succeed. It was like that with the Wright brothers, who decided to fly when no one believed it was possible. It was like that with Roger Bannister, who broke the 4-minute mile barrier when doctors claimed the human body couldn't handle it. The most impressive thing? Shortly after he succeeded, others succeeded too. This proves that it wasn't the limit of the body that fell, but the limit of the mind. And this is where I want to challenge you. After 55, have you noticed how easy it is to start living small? How many times have you caught yourself saying, I just want peace and quiet now, or I can't dream so big anymore? That's the trap. Because, deep down, what truly brings life is dreaming big. It's pursuing what makes your heart race, what seems impossible to you today. I've seen this happen firsthand. My brother-in-law, for instance, was over 50 when the opportunity arose to buy a small security equipment company. He wasn't sure he could handle it. He'd worked his whole life for others, was afraid to take risks, afraid of losing his home. But he and my sister mortgaged everything, poured every cent into the business. What seemed crazy at that age transformed into an empire that now supports their children and grandchildren. That would never have happened if they'd settled for small goals. And that's what I want to show you. After 55, you don't need to downsize your dreams, but to amplify them. And do you know why? Because you carry decades of experience, of mistakes, of successes, of accumulated wisdom. That's fuel that few young people possess. It's precisely now that you can aim for something seemingly impossible and surprise even yourself. Think about it. What dream did you shelve because you thought, it's too late? Maybe starting your own business, moving to a new city, learning something completely new, or even transforming your financial life. These are the true objectives that will draw from within you a strength you never imagined you still had. Science confirms this. When we have a great purpose, our minds activate creative areas, our bodies release energy, and even our health responds better. People with big goals live longer, have a lower risk of depression, and develop greater resilience. In other words, dreaming big after 55 isn't just an emotional choice, it's a survival and vitality strategy. So I ask you now, looking directly at you, if there were no limits of age, money, or circumstances, what would you truly like to achieve today? Hold on to that answer. Because that is your true objective. That's the dream that deserves to come out of the drawer. And don't worry about the how. The how never appears beforehand, it appears along the way. First comes the decision, then the action, and only then do opportunities arise. That's how the law of attraction works. You don't attract what you desire lightly, you attract what you desire with intensity, with emotion, with faith. After 55, don't settle for small goals anymore. Give yourself the chance to dream again, to be thrilled by a vision of the future so grand that it even frightens you. Because that's precisely what will give you the energy, focus, and vitality for the coming years. And more, when you dare to dream big, you inspire those around you, children, grandchildren, friends, to not give up too soon either. Now it's your turn. Choose something so big that it makes you smile just imagining it. Even if it seems absurd, even impossible. That's where true life resides. At 55, many people carry this hidden thought, what if it's too late? What if I don't have time to change everything I dreamed of? I've heard this question more times than I can count. But I want you to reflect, too late for what? To learn? To create? To prosper? To be happy? The only thing that can be too late is if you yourself decide to give up. I remember when I left the Toronto Fire Department. I wasn't some energetic kid without worries. I had debts, uncertainties, and a life that seemed to be going in circles. If I had believed it was too late to change, I probably would have grown old complaining about what I could have done. But I took a step with no guarantee of success, and my life transformed. It wasn't luck, it was choice. Many people believe that after 55, the brain doesn't respond as it did before. But neuroscience proves exactly the opposite. Our brain has what's called plasticity, the ability to create new connections until the very last day of life. This means you can learn, reinvent yourself, become an entrepreneur, improve your health, and even develop new passions. Anyone who says it's not possible anymore is just repeating an old paradigm, belief that was never true. I know stories of people who only found success after 60. Colonel Sanders, for example, founded the world's most famous chicken chain when he was already in his senior years. Imagine if he had believed it was too late. That's the point. It doesn't matter if you're 55, 65, or 75, age is never the barrier. The barrier is the belief that it's too late. Stop and think, how many times have you stopped trying something just because your mind whispered that thought of, it's too late? How many ideas did you shelve? How many projects did you not start? How many dreams did you abandon? And all of that based only on an assumption. The truth is that time will pass anyway. The question is, will you let it pass just surviving, or will you use each new year as an opportunity to start again? And look, I'm not saying that starting over is easy. Starting over requires courage. It requires facing the fear of failure. It requires admitting that you may have spent years believing a lie about yourself. But what's worse, taking a risk and discovering that there's still a world of possibilities, or never taking a risk and living wondering, what if? I remember making a decision that seemed insane to everyone around me. People said, "You're not young anymore, why quit a stable job? Why take a risk?" But I knew, deep inside, that if I stayed in that place, I would grow old, frustrated, full of regrets. And when I looked ahead, I realized that the real risk was not trying. So I ask you directly, what are you not doing because you believe it's too late? Starting a business? Writing a book? Traveling to the place you've always dreamed of? Changing your financial life? What is still pulsing inside you? Because that desire isn't there by chance. It's a clue. It's a calling. And do you know what happens when you decide to ignore that calling? You begin to wither inside. Studies show that people who believe it's too late develop more anxiety, more depression, and even more physical problems. On the other hand, those who allow themselves to start over, who set new goals even in maturity, live longer, have more energy, and even improve their health. This isn't philosophy, it's science. I can guarantee you one thing, the feeling of reinventing yourself after 55 is liberating. It's as if you have a second youth, but this time with something you didn't have before, experience. You already know what doesn't work, you've learned from mistakes, you've accumulated lessons. It's like starting a new game, but now with all the cards in your hand. And if doubt still comes, but what if I fail? Remember, failing while trying is infinitely more dignified than failing without ever having tried. True failure is not falling, it's never getting up. Life doesn't reward those who never make mistakes, life rewards those who insist on continuing. Therefore, at 55, 60, or 70, the right question is not, is there still time? The right question is, what am I going to do with the time I have now? That's the choice that changes everything. Because, in the end, it's not age that defines your limits, it's your willingness to believe that there's always time to start over. After 55, many people carry a strange feeling. They know they could be living better, they know they could be earning more, having better health, enjoying life more, but, in practice, they remain trapped in the same pattern of behavior, repeating the same habits, reaping the same results. This happens because there's something invisible commanding their choices, the paradigm. The paradigm is like a program installed in the subconscious that determines the way you think, feel, and act. And the most surprising thing is that it continues active, even when you consciously already know you could do differently. You must have felt this. You decide you're going to take care of your health, you start enthusiastically, but in a short time you return to old routines. You promise you'll organize your finances, but, without realizing it, you continue spending more than you should. You want to take a risk on something new, but you always return to the familiar path. This isn't a lack of willpower. This is the paradigm acting. Your subconscious doesn't differentiate the real from the imagined, it accepts as truth everything you feed with emotion and repetition. Therefore, the beliefs you've repeated for decades end up becoming orders that govern your life. I experienced this intensely. When I started earning real money, I didn't even understand how it was happening. I grew up believing that I needed to be very intelligent, have formal education, to achieve wealth. I didn't have any of those things. And even so, I started to prosper. Do you know why? Because, without realizing it, I was changing my paradigm. When I immersed myself in studies, I began to feed my subconscious with different ideas. And my body, my vibration, and my actions began to reflect this new programming. Now think with me, at 55, how many paradigms have already been reinforced within you? How many times have you heard that money is difficult, that there's no more time, that you're too old? How many times have you mentally repeated phrases like, I'm not good with numbers, I'm not lucky, I can't change? Each of these statements became a command. And the life you have today is the exact reflection of the paradigms you have accepted. But here's the good news, a paradigm is not a sentence, it's just programming. And every program can be updated. You can consciously choose new ideas and imprint them on your subconscious mind through repetition and emotion until they replace the old ones. It's like changing the soundtrack playing in the background of your mind. I want to suggest something practical. For the next 7 days, do a simple exercise, observe every negative thought that arises when the subject is money, prosperity, or personal life. Write that thought down on a piece of paper. Immediately afterward, write a positive affirmation, the exact opposite of that belief. For example, if you think, money is hard, replace it with, money comes to me easily. If you think, I don't have any more time, write, there's always time for a new beginning. Read these new phrases aloud, with emotion, several times a day. This may seem naive, but it's not. This is exactly how you begin to reprogram your subconscious. I've seen people transform their lives by applying this technique. A woman who followed my teachings, already over 60 years old, said she could never save money. She had internalized the belief that she would always live in debt. When she began to write down her thoughts and replace them with abundance affirmations, something incredible happened. She not only managed to pay off her debts but, in less than 2 years, was regularly saving and investing. She didn't change because the world changed, but because her paradigm changed. Now I want you to reflect, what has governed your life until today? What do you already know you could change, but don't? Because the difference between what you know and what you do isn't a lack of intelligence or laziness. It's the paradigm. When you understand this, you realize that the true enemy was never the lack of opportunity or age. It has always been the mental program that insists on repeating the old story. And here's a warning, if you don't take control of this programming, it will continue to control your life. You may live another 10, 20, 30 years, but if you don't change the paradigm, the results will remain the same. It's like driving a car with the parking brake engaged. So I invite you, don't accept being controlled by old beliefs any longer. Consciously choose the ideas you want to plant in your mind. Reinforce them every day with emotion and action. At 55 or older, you have the maturity needed to see the patterns that bind you and, finally, replace them. It doesn't matter how many decades a paradigm has been in command. It only continues to live because you still feed it. From the moment you stop sustaining it and begin nurturing new ideas, transformation is inevitable. The key is to assume the role of programmer of your own mind. And when you do that, no matter how old you are, you begin to live as if you had just discovered a new life. When I think about 55 years old or more, I remember how many people reach this stage of life believing that it no longer makes sense to pursue something great. And it is precisely there that the clearest proof that the law of attraction has no age comes in. You just need to understand that everything begins with the clarity of vision. Steve Jobs, for example, didn't know how to create the iPhone before he created it. He simply kept a clear image in his mind. He didn't have a manual, he didn't have a ready-made script, but he had the conviction that that idea would be real. And it was precisely this clarity that put him on the right frequency to attract the people, the engineers, the resources, and everything that was necessary to materialize what, until then, seemed impossible. Now look at the other side of the coin, Nikola Tesla. One of the greatest geniuses the world has ever seen. He created concepts and inventions that are still the basis of modern technologies today. But he died poor. Not because he lacked talent, not because he lacked ideas, but because his paradigm regarding money was one of scarcity. He believed that his inventions should not be associated with wealth. And that belief kept him away from financial abundance. This shows us that genius is not enough. If your vibration regarding money is negative, you will not attract prosperity, no matter how brilliant you are. At 55, this is a powerful lesson. Perhaps you haven't invented anything as grand as Tesla, or transformed industries like Jobs. But within you there are dreams that await the same clarity of vision. And if you still believe that it's too late, reflect, how many examples have we seen of people who found the peak of their lives after 60, 70, or even 80 years old? What defines it is not age, it's the vibration you sustain. I experienced this myself. When I decided to build my studio, I had no idea how to do it. I just imagined clearly, cameras, soundproofing, a team connected in different cities, everything working like a small broadcasting station inside my house. I maintained the vision, held on tight, and in a short time I found the right people, the right resources, and what only existed in my mind became reality. The law of attraction works like this: you don't need to know how, you just need to have a vision so clear and emotionally charged that your subconscious mind begins to move everything around so that it manifests. The big question, after 55, is not whether you can still achieve. It's whether you're willing to abandon the beliefs that hold you back, as Tesla couldn't, and whether you're prepared to sustain a clear vision, as Jobs did. Because the truth is simple, you never attract what you desire lightly, you attract what you can imagine with clarity, feel with intensity, and believe with firmness. And I ask you now, what is the vision you have been maintaining? Is it the vision of limitations, that it's too late, that the opportunities are gone? Or is it the vision of a future that, although it may seem impossible, can begin to align itself today, the moment you decide to hold that image within yourself? At 55 or older, many people leave their dreams tucked away in a drawer. They tell themselves that it's no longer worthwhile, that now is only the time to maintain what they already have. But what they may not realize is that everything they desire already exists in potential. Science and even theology say the same thing: nothing is created, nothing is destroyed, everything is transformed. This means that what you dream of is already available in some form, waiting only for you to put yourself on the right frequency to attract it. I experienced this when I decided to create my studio. In the beginning, there was no project, no detailed budget, no ready team. What there was a clear image in my mind. I could see the cameras, the lights, the soundproofing, every detail. I maintained this vision, fueled it with emotion, and little by little, the right people appeared, the resources manifested, and what was once just a dream became physical reality. I held the image until it became inevitable. And that's exactly what you need to do. At 55, you have a huge advantage: accumulated experience. You have lived long enough to understand that problems always arise, but you have also seen that solutions always appear. So why doubt that now would be any different? The only reason why you may not have yet achieved what you desire is because you gave up too soon on sustaining the vision. Remember, the physical world is only a reflection of what you maintain within yourself. When you imagine something clearly, your subconscious registers it as real. And the subconscious doesn't distinguish between what has already happened and what is only in the realm of imagination. That's why great inventors, artists, and entrepreneurs have always lived one step ahead. First they created in the invisible, and only then did they see the result in the visible. You can do this too. But you need to commit to not letting go of the image, even when your rational side screams, "This is impossible." Many people at this age tell me, "But I've tried before and I couldn't." And I always reply, "You couldn't because you gave up too soon. You let go of the image when it was still being formed." It's like planting a seed and pulling it out of the ground every day to see if it has already grown. It doesn't work that way. You need to plant, water, and trust that the invisible process is happening. Try something simple: choose a dream you've kept for years. Maybe starting your own business, writing a book, traveling to the place you've always wanted, or even achieving financial independence. Close your eyes and imagine yourself living this now. See the details, feel the emotions, as if it were already happening. Repeat this daily. This practice is not fantasy, it's mental training. This is how you begin to align your vibration. And make no mistake, when you change your vibration, you change everything. New people begin to appear in your life, different ideas emerge, opportunities that once seemed invisible begin to show themselves. The universe responds to the state you put yourself in. And the longer you sustain the image, the stronger that response becomes. I've seen this transform lives. I've met people who, after 60, began to live what they always dreamed of. One of them told me that she had kept, for decades, the desire to open a small inn. She always postponed it, always told herself it was too late. But when she decided to visualize it every day, she attracted investors, partners, and in a short time she was living exactly what she had imagined. Today she says her only regret is not having believed sooner. So I ask you, what is the dream you put aside because you thought it was impossible? At 55 or 65 years old, you still have time to turn this into reality. The only step you need to take now is to hold the image, not let it escape, and put yourself daily in the vibration of that dream already realized. Because it is at this point that the invisible begins to align, and the impossible becomes inevitable. At 55 and beyond, age isn't a limitation, it's an asset. You've accumulated a wealth of experience, overcome challenges, and cultivated the wisdom to align your energy with your deepest desires. The key is understanding that what you hold in your mind and heart shapes your reality, regardless of time past. Now, to continue your journey of growth and become even 1% better than you are today, watch the next video appearing on your screen. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you at our next meeting.